We are starting on Chavtet Amud Aleph, 7 lines, so the 7th middle-sized line. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Shmuel. Rav Nachman said the name of Shmuel. Kol hashana kula, all year long, mitpalel adam havinenu, a person can pray, havinenu chutz memotzei Shabbat and memotzei Yom Tov, aside from motzei Shabbat and motzei Yom Tov. Mipnei, because shetzarich lomar havdalah b'chonen hadat, because you need to add havdalah, which is atachon antanu, you have to add it in chonen hadat. And if you say havinenu, there is no chonen hadat. It's right. All 13 of the middle berachot are included into one. So matkif la Rabba bar Shmuel. Rabba bar Shmuel asks a question. V'neimra beracha revi'it bifnei atzma. So why don't you just say havdalah as its own fourth beracha? So you have the first 3 of shevach, then you add a 4th of havdalah, then you do 1 of havinenu, and then you do the last 3 of hodaya. Because milot na'an. Because didn't we learn in the Mishnah, Rabbi Akiva, Omer, Rabbi Akiva says when it comes to Havdalah, Omera beracha revi'i bifnei atzma, you should say Havdalah amotzei Shabbat in Amidah, as in an extra beracha, by itself, bifnei atzma is by itself, and Rabbi Eliezer, Omer b'hoda'ah, and the rest of that Mishnah over there says, Rabbi Eliezer says, you say it after Modim, just like you say Al Hanisim. So the question is, why? Right? We said, Shmuel said, you could say Havinenu all year long, except for Motzei Shabbat and Motzei Yom Tov, because you need to add Havdalah, and you can't do that because it's Havinenu. So the Gemara asks, Rabbi Bar Shmuel asks, so why don't you just add an extra beracha? So now the Gemara is going to give an answer. Atu kol hashana kula, is it that all year long, mi avdinan ka Rabbi Akiva, do we do like Rabbi Akiva, the hashtanami na'avid, that now also we should do? Basically, all year long we don't do like Rabbi Akiva, so why should we do it even now? Kol hashana kula, all year long, mai ta'ama, what's the reason, lo avdinan ka Rabbi Akiva, that we don't do like Rabbi Akiva? All year long, why don't we listen to him? Tam Nisari Tikun, the rabbis instituted 18 berachot na'amidah, Tishisrei lo tikun, but 19 they did not make. Hachanami, here also we're talking about Me'en Shmoneh Esrei. Shiva Tikun, the rabbis made 7 berachot in the Me'en Shmoneh Esrei, Tamni lo tikun, but 8 they did not make. So therefore, basically what we're saying is, why don't we just add a 4th beracha into the Amidah, on Motzei Shabbat, and then say Havinenu? Because Havinenu Me'en Shmoneh Esrei is 7 berachot, not 8 berachot. The Gemara then asks another question. Okay, good point. So again, back to our original Memra by Shmuel, that all year long you could say Havinenu except for Motzei Shabbat and Motzei Yom Tov, because you have to say Havdalah and Chonen Hadat, and you just can't. So the Gemara asks, right, Matkifla Marzutra asks a question against Shmuel, V'nichlala michlal, and why don't you combine it? Havinenu Hashem Elokeinu, Hamavdil ben Kodesh L'chol. So why don't you combine it? And after you're done with Shevach, you start Havinenu, and then right after you start Havinenu, which is of course Chonen Hadat, right? That's Keneged Chonen Hadat. Then just add in it Havdalah. The Gemara says, Kashya, that's a good question. Next sugya. Amar Rav Bibi bar Abaye. Rav Bibi bar Abaye said, Kol hashana kula, all year long, mitpalel adam havinenu, a person can pray havinenu, chutz miyamot hageshamim, aside from yamot hageshamim, the days of rain, which is another way of saying winter, because in Eretz Yisrael, you really have 2 time periods. Even though, of course, you have summer, you have spring, summer, fall, and winter, but the winter and the fall are really one and the same. It's Yemot HaGeshamim, the days of rain, right? They don't really have snow there too frequently. Because you need to say she'elah. She'elah is v'tein talmata livracha, You need to say that in Birkat HaShanim, which is Barech Aleinu. Okay, so again, Rav Bibi Bar Abaye says, all year long you could say Havinenu, except in the winter time, because in the winter time you can't say it, because you have to add V'tein Talamatar Livracha. Matkif la Marzutra. So Marzutra asks, V'nichla la michla, why don't you combine this V'tein Talamatar Livracha in the actual text of Havinenu? Right, how we do that? So he gives an example. V'dashnenu b'naot artzecha, and you should make us fat in the good of your land. V'tein tal umatar, right? And then we add in v'tein tal umatar livracha. So like this, it's good. So again, Rabbi Bar Abaye said, all year long you could say Havinenu, except for the Yimot HaGeshamim, because you need to add v'tein tal umatar livracha. The Gemara says, what's the big deal? Just say Havinenu, but just add the words V'tein Tal Matar Livracha next to the appropriate Beracha. Kind of like we asked by Havdalah, right, earlier. We say you could do the same thing in Atachonen for Havinenu. Right? So the Gemara asked a similar type of question. And if you noticed, in both places it was Marzutra that asked the same question. So the same person asked pretty much identical questions in both places. So the Gemara says, you know why we can't add V'tein Tal Matar into Havinenu? Ati la'atrude. It will come to mix them up. Ihachi, if this is so, says the Gemara, Havdalah b'chonin hadat nami ati la'atrude. Havdalah and chonin hadat also will come and mix you up, right? Meaning to say, beforehand we had the question, we said, why don't you say Havdalah at the beginning of Havinenu? The Gemara said, Kashya, we had no answer. So here, the Gemara says, same thing we're answering here. Why don't we say Tein Tal Matar Livracha in Havinenu? Because you're going to get mixed up. Same thing. Why don't you say Havdalah and Chonin Adat? You're going to get mixed up. So Gemara says, Amri Hatam Kevan Da'atya B'tchilat Tzlota Lo Matrid. Will say, there, since it comes in the beginning of the tefillah, he will not be mixed up. Hacha, here, Kevan da'atya be'emtza tzlota, since it comes in the middle of the tefillah matrid. Right? So if a person, so it's still a question on Havinenu, meaning on Havdalah. Havdalah, what's the difference between Havdalah and V'tein Tal Matar Livracha? V'tein Tal Matar Livracha is in the middle of Havinenu. Right? Barech Aleinu is the 9th beracha of the Amidah. Meaning to say, it's the 6th beracha of the Bakashot. That's smack in the middle, right? Especially when they had 18 berachot, there were 12 berachot in Bakasha before we added Laminim and Malshinim. So this was smack in the middle, right? Pretty much right in the middle. Therefore, if we added V'tein Tal Matar Livracha in the middle, you get mixed up. But if you add Havdalah at the beginning, you're not going to get mixed up. Because there's a difference between the beginning and the middle. The middle, you're already, concentrating and you're going to mess yourself up. The beginning, though, you're not going to mess yourself up the same way. So Matkif la Rav Ashi asks a question, V'neim Rabba Shomei Tefillah, why don't we just say V'tein Tal Matar Livracha in Shomei Tefillah? I mean to say, the last part of Havinenu, right? Okay, you can't say it in Birkat HaShanim in the middle, so say it at the very end. Like this, you're not going to get mixed up. You're already through the woods. You're done. You're good. So how do we know that you could even say v'tein talamata livracha in shomei tefillah? Da'amar Rabbi Tanchum Amar Rav Asi. Rabbi Tanchum said in the name of Rav Asi ta'ava lo yizkir gvorot geshamim b'tchiyat hametim. If a person makes a mistake and does not say mashiv haruach umira geshem in mechayeh metim, machzirin oto, you make him go back to the beginning of the Amidah. She'elav b'berkat hashanim. If a person did not say she'elah, which is v'tein talamata livracha, if you did not say it in berkat hashanim, ein machzirin oto. We don't make you go back and say it again. Because you could go and say it in Shomei Tefillah. And then Havdalah b'chonei nadat. If you forgot to say Havdalah b'chonei nadat, ein machzin oto. We don't make you go back and say it again. Because you could go and say it on a cup of wine. So the question is, we said beforehand, right? We said earlier that Rav Bibi Bar Abaye says all year long you could pray. All year long you could pray Havinenu, right? Mein Shmona Esrei, except for the winter when you need to say V'tein talamata livracha. So the Gemara says, no, what's the big deal? Why don't you just pop it into the text of Havinenu? We said, right, we can't do that. The reason you can't do that is because it's smack in the middle. You're going to get yourself mixed up. Right? However, the Gemara says, so just put it at the end. Put it in Shomei Tefillah. Because we know that if a person did not say V'tein talamata livracha in Amidah, you could just say it in Shomei Tefillah. So why don't you say it in Shomei Tefillah? Meaning to say Havinenu, right, ends off with Shomei Tefillah. So just say V'tein talamata livracha in Shomei Tefillah. So the Gemara answers Ta'a Shani. It is different if you make a mistake. Ta'a, mistake, Sha'ani is different. Meaning, if you make a mistake, then you could go and say Tein talamata livracha in Shomei Tefillah. If you're praying Amidah and you didn't realize what you were saying or whatever, you could go and make it up in Shomei Tefillah. But you can't purposely omit V'tein talamata livracha from Barech Aleinu, right? And then go and say, oh yeah, I'll just say it later on.
Excuse the interruption.